Welcome everyone. Today, I will be explaining the plot of a 2003 comedy film called Stuck on You. As the movie begins, we see two conjoined twins, Bob and Walt Tenner, trying to live as normally as possible. They both wake up at the same time, work out for a while, and then go on their daily walk. From the very beginning, it is clear that Walt is outgoing and sociable, whereas Bob is shy and introverted and prefers a quiet life. Soon it is revealed that the conjoined brothers together run a diner in Oak Bluffs on Martha's Vineyard named Quickie Burger. The diner guarantees free meals to customers whose orders are not completed in 3 minutes. It acts as a testament to how skilled and in sync Bob and Walt are with each other. As a result, customers often challenge these two to prepare their order in time or give away the food for free. Also, Bob maintains a long-distance relationship with a pen pal named Mei Fong. So, Walt often mocks him for this, claiming his pen friend can be an old man who works in a circus. One day, after playing ice hockey with their friends, Walt and Bob hang out at a local bar. There, we learn that Walt is comfortable socializing with women, whereas Bob is the shyer of the two and often acts as the third wheel. Later, they meet a girl named Debbie, whom Bob likes, but is too nervous to talk to. Instead, Walt manages to seduce her and sleeps with her, while Bob writes to his pen friend May. The next day, we learn that Walt aspires to be a Hollywood actor. He is set to audition for a role in a local play. However, he seems pretty confident about it, which surprises Bob, who tends to get stage fright. Later, we see Walt performing on the stage, while Bob cooperates by staying in the background as much as possible. Walt seems to be an excellent actor, as he charms the audience with his role. All this time, we see Bob sweating all over his face because of his stage fright. Soon, the play is over, and everyone congratulates Walt for his wonderful performance. Bob then reveals to the crew that Walt wants to do a musical version of Bonnie and Clyde. The next day, the twin brothers are seen discussing their life together ever since they found they cannot be separated. They remember playing baseball, boxing, and having each other's back ever since they were small kids. Shortly after, Walt reveals to Bob that he wants to pursue his dream to be an actor and move to Hollywood. However, Bob doesn't feel confident about it and tries to talk him out of it. Bob thinks that they were meant to run the restaurant and stay there for the rest of their lives. Still, Walt manages to convince Bob to move to Los Angeles to pursue his dream. Next, we see the brothers finally arriving in Los Angeles. After finding an appropriate lodging for themselves, the two of them decide to go to casting agencies to land a role for Walt. Before that, the boys spend the afternoon barbecuing so that Walt's skin can get tanned. Soon, they meet and become friends with a fellow aspiring actress, April Mercedes. While talking to April, Walt and Bob learn about the local paper called Backstage West, which lists all the open casting calls. As soon as Walt lays his eyes on the paper, he finds a casting call perfect for him. Walt thinks that he matches the required actor's description and decides to give it a shot. Shortly after, Walt is seen auditioning for the new Robin Hood role. However, he quickly becomes a laughingstock for the casting director, who can't help himself laughing at their conjoinment. The brothers then go to several casting agencies, but unfortunately, Walt is rejected by all. His ambitious efforts to find acting work in Hollywood are fraught with difficulty. As a result, Walt becomes demotivated and thinks about returning to his previous life. However, Bob encourages him and tells Walt that he's got a plan. The next day, Bob and Walt are seen riding an expensive car so that the agents think they are rich. Soon, they go to meet Morty O'Reilly at a restaurant, who is April's ex-agent. After setting a deal with O'Reilly to represent him, the two of them leave. On the way, Walt sees the famous actress Meryl Streep, and the two of them go to meet her in a restaurant. Initially, Bob seems hesitant to approach her, but Walt wants to meet her anyhow, because he is a big fan of her work. However, their conversation with her quickly becomes uncomfortable, as Bob and Walt talk about her visit to their town. But just as they are about to leave, Meryl realizes that she actually remembers them from a football game that they won back in their town. Later, Walt, Bob, and April are on a beach, spending some time together. There, Walt reveals their encounter with Meryl Streep, and April finds it amusing. After a while, she expresses curiosity about their conjoinment. Walt explains that they share a liver that is mostly Bob's. April suggests that they can undergo surgical separation, but Walt tells her that even though the surgical separation is possible, it is very risky for him. Due to this, Bob would not consent to the surgery, even though Walt favored it. The next day, Walt gets a call from his agent, Morty, who informs him that he got a role in a movie called Pavlov's Dog. They both are overjoyed to hear this news. Moments later, Walt reveals that while Bob was asleep, he managed to retrieve Mei Fong's number and called her to meet with Bob. Bob immediately starts panicking, thinking May would not like him for the fact that he is conjoined with Walt. Soon after, May arrives at their apartment, and the both of them try their best to hide the secret from her. On their first date together, the three of them have takeout dinner and spend the rest of the night talking. Obvious of his nervous nature, Bob often screws up the conversation by talking about weird movie scenes, even though Walt tries his best to help his brother. Eventually, the two of them start bonding, even though May fails to see that the brothers are actually conjoined twins. At last, the two of them kiss to seal off their first night out together. The following day, the twins arrive at the studio, where Morty fakes the job for Walt. On the way, the two of them guess about the movie, since Morty didn't send them a script. On the other hand, we see a famous actress, Cher, who is having a hard time landing a role in a movie. Currently, she's involved in a primetime TV show called Honey and the Bees, even though she hates it. However, she realizes that she can get out of it, as she has signed a contract with the producers. Moments later, Bob and Walt arrive there after getting lost in the studio, but soon they are on their way. Later, when Bob and Walt finally arrive at their designated studio, they learn that their agent landed him a role in a pornographic film. Disappointed once again, the two of them leave the studio and make their way towards their car. Meanwhile, Cher learns that she can choose her own co-star for the show. Being certain that the show will get cancelled, she decides to choose Walt as the lead actor for the show. To celebrate the occasion, Bob, Walt, April, and May go out on a double date. Eventually, Bob and May Fong develop a romantic relationship, and the twins' attempt to keep their conjoined nature a secret proves to be a tough challenge. Next, we see Cher's manager, Howard, talking to the producers of the show about Walt being the new lead. The producers eventually realize Cher's scheme of forcing them to shut down the show. Bothered by this, they decide to foil it by going forward with the production and starting the shooting as soon as possible. Soon, they begin filming by keeping Bob out of the camera frame as much as possible by employing blue screen effects. But contrary to Cher's belief, the producers are comfortable continuing with Walt as the lead, even though she tries to convince them to shut it down. But to everyone's surprise, the show becomes a surprise hit, and thus, like a flip of a switch, Walt becomes famous. Next, May arrives at the twins' flat to meet Bob. When Bob doesn't answer the doorbell, she voluntarily enters and discovers the twins in bed. She cannot believe what she just saw and concludes that they are a homosexual couple rather than brothers. Later, although Bob shows her that they are conjoined twins, May is nonetheless in shock at the deception and flees. As a result, Bob is left heartbroken as the girl he loves the most just left him. Moments later, Morty arrives and informs the twins that word has leaked about Walt and Bob being conjoined. As a result, Walt's show loses its sponsors and the production halts until further notice. Morty suggests that they should just run away and hide from the media. However, the boys had a slightly different idea on their minds. Rather than hide their secret, the twins decide to embrace it and be proud of it. In an attempt to show the world that they no longer wish to hide their secret, Walt and Bob make an appearance on The Tonight Show with Jay Leno. Due to their honest replies and Bob's innocent nature, their appearance on The Tonight Show is very well received by the audience, and they both become huge celebrities overnight. As a result, they start getting commercials, and Walt's show, Honey and the Bees, finally resumes shooting. While Walt enjoys the success, he knows that Bob is unhappy because he still misses May. One day, while they're at a bar, Walt forces Bob to go and talk to a girl sitting nearby, even though Bob constantly rejects this idea. This leads to Bob lashing out at Walt, and the two of them leave the place, resolving that Bob needs to be independent of him in order to be happy. Walt thinks of getting surgically separated. Soon, Walt opens up about his idea to Bob in a restaurant, but as we already know, he instantly rejects it. Having no options left to convince Bob, Walt resolves to convince him to acquiesce. In order to do so, Walt starts to make a fool of himself by getting drunk, until Bob changes his mind. Later, they are even pepper sprayed by a couple of girls when Walt tries to flirt with them. This is followed by Walt accidentally snatching a woman's purse as they are being chased by the police. They eventually end up spending the night in jail for drunk driving. Even though Walt was driving, Bob was behind the wheel, sober. That night at the jail, the policemen make fun of the twins for their conjoinment, which saddens Bob. The next day, when they're released, Bob demands an apology from Walt for his behavior the last day, but he refuses to do so. Eventually, they get into a fight, and Bob decides to go with the operation. On the night before the surgery, the brothers are seen having a good time with April and the landlord. Soon, May shows up and apologizes to Bob for running out the way she did. Moments later, she even confesses her love for Bob and reveals that she accepts him the way he is. Bob informs her that they're getting separated, and although she does not want them to, he knows that it's the best for them. The next day, just as they are about to leave for the hospital, Morty arrives and informs them that Honey and the Bees has become a chart-topper show. He even advises them against the operation for the sake of their career, but both of them have already made up their minds. At the hospital, May and April keep a vigil while the operation is ongoing. After a while, the doctor arrives in the lobby to inform them that the surgery was successful. After the operation, Bob and Walt find it a bit difficult to adjust to their new reality, but they soon get used to it. A few days later, Bob and May, both being small-town people, decide to move back to Oak Bluffs. He reveals this to Walt, who becomes upset that his brother is leaving him. Meanwhile, Walt has a hard time performing on the set since he is not used to being alone. As days pass by, we see that Bob finds the separation from Walt difficult, both practically and emotionally. Also, he is unable to do things by himself that the twins used to do together, such as maintaining Quickie Burger's 3-minute challenge or playing hockey. On the other hand, Walt loses his job when Honey and the Bees is cancelled due to low ratings. Also, he finds it difficult to find subsequent work. He is also emotionally devastated by Bob's absence. Seeing all this happen to Walt, April suggests that while he is on a break, he should go visit Bob. But Walt thinks that his brother needs his personal space. Therefore, it's not the right time for him to go. One day, Cher finds Walt sitting on a bench, crying alone. After having a brief talk with Cher about what's best for him, he decides to move back to Oak Bluffs. Next, we see Bob alone in his restaurant, remembering his days with Walt. Suddenly, he hears a song playing and gets curious about it. Eventually, he turns back to see Walt standing in the doorway. The scene then cuts to 1 year later. We see that Walt and Bob are back in Oak Bluffs, running the restaurant together. The twins simulate their former conjoinment with Velcro clothing that attaches them to one another. Bob and May are now married, and May is pregnant. Meanwhile, Walt finds creative fulfillment, continuing in local plays. Lastly, we see Walt performing in a musical in which he and Meryl Streep play Bonnie and Clyde. The movie ends.